The motherboard is the bedrock upon which your computer is built. It's arguably the single most important factor in your build. Everything from processor, to maximum RAM, to total number of drives, all depends on the motherboard to be stable and capable platform. On top its importance as the foundation of your computer, a motherboard is one component that can't easily be swapped out. For instance, if your graphics card quits or no longer fits your needs, it's not hard to swap it out for a flashy new one. But if your motherboard quits, or you find yourself needing more PCIe slots or RAM, you basically have to rip the whole thing apart. That's why getting a good motherboard is so important. The sheer number of options, from chipset to form factor to available ports, makes motherboard shopping somewhat daunting. The good news is, it doesn't have to be. We've compiled this list of the best motherboards by chipset and form factor, so you can start building the computer of your dreams right now. Before we get into the recommendations, a little bit of a primer for the uninitiated. Motherboards come in several different form factors, the most common of which are ATX and Micro ATX. There are a whole bunch of other form factors, but generally speaking, the case you end up buying will probably support one or both of these sizes. The socket type refers to the actual socket where the processor plugs into the motherboard itself. Different manufacturers have different sockets for their CPUs, and different CPUs from the same manufacturer might not share a common socket. For example, Intel Core processors come in LGA 1151, but also LGA 1155, and sometimes LGA 1150. AMD processors also have varying socket sizes. This absolute beast from AMD is an Intel builder's dream. It has dual Ethernet ports, HDMI and DisplayPort, Thunderbolt and USB Type-C, along with an enthusiast layout for easy SLI builds. It's overclockable, with 3 BIOS profiles to support that basic human need to make a computer go way over its limits. It also comes with enthusiast stickers. Who doesn't love stickers? Form factor, Micro ATX, socket, LGA 1151, chipset, Intel B250, memory support, dual channel 2x DDR4 2400 MHz, up to 32 GB, multi-GPU support, no, features, 1xPCM.2, 32 to 110 mm. Intel Optane memory ready. Not much room for expansion. You don't need to break the bank to get your computer off on the right footing. This board from MSI is a great, inexpensive solution. It's limited in options for future expansions, so it's ideal for a one-and-done build. Since it's a gaming motherboard, it has support for things like Mystic Light Sync, which lets you synchronize all your RGB lighting with a single click. This Micro ATX motherboard from ASRock packs a lot of features onto a smaller form factor. you lose out on the possibility of extra PCIe slots, but there are 4 memory slots to upgrade to a maximum 64GB DDR4 RAM. It also has support for onboard graphics, so if you're building a computer piecemeal, you can still use it before buying a dedicated graphics card. Form factor: Mini ITX, socket, LGA 1151, chipset, Intel Z270, memory support, dual channel 2x DDR4 4600 MHz, up to 64GB, multi-GPU support, no, features, 1xPCM.2, PM, Intel Optane memory ready. This small motherboard packs a punch. Not only does it support Intel HD graphics, it also has a safe swap-C slot that's reinforced to better hold today's positively monstrous graphics cards. On top of that, it's actually really cool looking, with RGB lighting that syncs with other Aura Sync enabled peripherals and products. When it comes to AMD motherboards, the Gaming Pro Carbon from MSI does not mess around in the slightest. Not only is it packed with lots of features to make it extra appealing for AMD gaming PC builds, it has awesome Mystic Light RGB settings that can be adjusted via smartphone app. Besides looking great, it has plenty of room for expansion and support for dual graphics cards. Form factor: Micro ITX, socket, AMD AM4, chipset, AMD A320, memory support, single channel 2x DDR4 3200 MHz, up to 32GB, multi-GPU support, no, features, 1xPCM.2, PM. Budget builds are almost always based around AMD hardware. Not because AMD is budget, but because it's just cheaper than Intel and Nvidia. Start the build off on the right, low cost foot with this motherboard from ASUS. It has everything you need to pull off a solid computer build, without having to break the bank. It lacks visual bells and whistles, but hey, it's a budget solution. If you want to get where you need to go, and you don't care about things like fancy RGB lighting or eye-catching, futuristic looking heat dissipators, the AB350M Pro 4 is the motherboard for you. In spite of its plain Jane looks and no frills aesthetic, this is a solid motherboard with plenty of room to expand and grow with your computer needs. Form factor: Mini ITX, socket, AM4, chipset, AMD B350, memory support, dual channel 2x DDR4 3466 MHz, up to 32GB, multi-GPU support, no, features, 1xM.2, PM. Small and powerful, this ASRock motherboard is a beast, supporting overclocked memory speeds up to 3466 MHz for CPUs that support it. If that wasn't enough to get your motor running, it also supports 4K resolutions and full Blu-ray support through its HDMI ports. Yes, ports, it has two, as well as onboard video support. The X series processors are here and they're spectacular, so if you want to take advantage of all they have to offer, you need an X series motherboard. This ASRock X299 is an excellent choice, with support for overclocked memory speeds up to 4400 MHz, and 8 different slots for memory modules. It also supports up to 128GB of RAM, so with an X series processor and a good graphics card, or 3, this thing will absolutely tear apart anything you throw at it. If you're the type of builder with deep pockets and an everything in the kitchen sink build mentality, this Ryzen Threadripper board is definitely for you. It supports 4-way SLI or Crossfire configurations, so you can just empty your bank account in the name of PC glory. All that graphical power is supported by as much as 128GB DDR4 memory, and there's even a flashy RGB lighting scheme to really drive home the point.